Exactly. Who was Jesus talking to when he said that? Was he talking to anybody alive today?
No, no.
Who was he talking to?
The Jews, I think, yeah.
The Jews back then who rejected him. And the
Ah,
synagogues of Satan that he was condemning in Revelation, because it's the revelation of Jesus Christ that he sent by his angel to give unto his servant John. He was condemning the Jews back then. Now, that's not to say there are no wicked Jews today, but he was not specifically addressing anybody today in that verse in 2 and 9 or 3 and 9.
can you hear me? Can you hear me?
What's good,
Dang.
RPK? How you doing?
I'm doing good. I'm good. I'm doing good. I had some questions because uh, before, so like a year ago or so, I was very anti-Semitic and racist, so a white supremacist.
Mm.
But in the past couple months, I've kind of, after reading the Bible more, I've kind of found the truth. So I've turned away from that, but I still have some questions, mainly because of the Bible. In Revelations 3:9, it says that the Jews are the synagogue of Satan.
Uh-huh.
And so I was wondering, because I know we shouldn't hate, we should love. Um, and I
The
was
Jews,
wondering,
the
yeah,
synagogues of Satan Jews are the Jews who were back then. It's not talking about any Jews today. These were the people who Christ was condemning in his day and who Paul was running into in the synagogue.
ah,
That's who he was talking about. He ain't talking about nobody today.
so not Jews in general, but just the Jews of that time.
Exactly. Because back then, that's, this term synagogue, that's where they were meeting at. Jesus taught in the synagogues. Paul taught and disputed in the synagogues. So
Oh,
Revelations 2 and 9 and Revelations 3 is 9 is not some prophecy um going all the way in the future talking about the Jews of our time. It's talking about the Jews of that time. If you read Revelation from the beginning, chapter 1, it'll let you know that he's addressing a lot of stuff that was going on then, and it's specifically written to the seven churches in Asia, which were literal churches back then. These Jews in Jesus' day, they did not believe him. They had him condemned to death. They tried to kill his apostles, including Paul. They were always plotting against Christians of that day. So he was talking about the Jews back then. He ain't talking about no Jews today.
and also in John 8:44, it says, You are of your father the devil, and the desires of your father you want to do. He was a
Exactly.
murderer from the beginning, and does not stand in the
Exactly.
truth, because there is no truth in him.
Exactly. Who was Jesus talking to when he said that? Was he talking to anybody alive today?
No, no.
Who was he talking to?
The Jews, I think, yeah.
The Jews back then who rejected him. And the
Ah,
synagogues of Satan that he was condemning in Revelation, because it's the revelation of Jesus Christ that he sent by his angel to give unto his servant John. He was
mhm.
condemning the Jews back then. Now, that's not to say there are no wicked Jews today, but he was not specifically addressing anybody today in that verse in 2 and 9 or 3 and 9. He was talking about the Jews back then. They were the synagogues of Satan. They were the ones who profess to be Jews but are not, but do lie. Meaning, after Paul explained in Romans chapter 2 that a Jew is one inwardly, not one outwardly. These people were Jews outwardly, but not inwardly. And that's why he said, You say you are a Jew, but are not, and lie. At that time, being a Jew was not just about being um about your ancestral line. It was about how you walked and carry yourself. That's how they were starting to understand what a Jew was at that time. So it's not talking
Ah.
about any Jews today.
Okay, so I had
And God's not a
one last
respecter of a
question.
person.
Ah, yes.
Mm-hmm.
I had one last question about Galatians 1:8. It says, But even if we or an angel from heaven preach any other gospel that you, then what we have to preach you, that let him be accursed. So anyone who
Mm-hmm.
isn't Christian, let him be accursed. That's what I understood
That's
from
not
it.
what that is. That's not what they're saying. That's not saying anybody who isn't Christian. Read it again. Let it tell you specifically what it's saying.
If we an angel from heaven, so anyone, so any angel that preaches a different gospel,
Read
that's
verse
the
7
danger.
first, and it'll let you know. Read verse 7 first. It's gonna let you know in what sense. Read verse 7.
7 with. I need to pull it up.
One verse earlier.
Here, I got it. I got it for you on my screen. I can read it for you.
In fact, you can read at
Yeah, okay.
verse 6 because it reads into verse 7. Read verse 6 and 7. It gives you the correct context.
Yes, sir. This is Galatians chapter 1, verse 6. I am astonished that you are so quickly deserting the one who called you to live in the grace of Christ and are turning to a different gospel, which is
So the context of this is Paul is telling the Galatians how astonished he is at them turning to a different gospel. But he's going to let them know, I'm not saying that there's another gospel. He's letting you know when I say this, I mean they're perverting the gospel that was given to you. But
Oh,
read the next verse, please.
verse 7, which is really no gospel at all. Evidently, some people are throwing you into confusion and are trying to pervert the gospel of Christ.
See, they're taking the gospel of Christ and they're perverting. So these are people who are pretending to be Christians and pretending to teach the gospel,
mhm.
coming to the Galatians, and they're perverting it. They're adding stuff to it. They're taking away from it. They're saying things about it that it doesn't necessarily say. They're twisting things out of context. And then when you read verse 8, that's why he said, but though we, or an angel from heaven, preach any other gospel unto you than that which we have preached unto you, let them be accursed, which means condemned or damned to hell. So he's
So,
letting you know, even if one of us try to come back and change the true gospel, let us be condemned to hell too. That's what he's telling you. And there's people
uh,
doing that today too. They're perverting the gospel.
yeah, if so, isn't Islam? Isn't it also talking about Islam? Because Angel
No,
Jibril appeared.
Islam doesn't preach the
Islam
gospel.
is
Mm,
Islam kind of is a perversion of it though, because it talks about the Injil in Islam, and it
mhm,
is perverting the gospel because they have a different version of Jesus, a Jesus that
mhm.
did not die for your sins, a Jesus who was not the Son of God. You follow what I'm saying?
Yes,
And
yes.
so on and so forth. So Islam is perverting the gospel. Yes.
Ooh.
Mm,
But not like specifically aimed at that. The
yeah.
Quran focuses more on Allah and Islam, but it does pervert the gospel in the process, you should say. You follow what I'm saying?
Oh,
So yes, it is doing it. I'm just saying that's not its main goal. You follow what I'm saying?
mm, mm. And I think that Muslims, Jews, and Christians should not live in one society together because of the holy books. Because in the Quran it says that unbelievers should be killed. In the Torah it says that uh, if you kill a goyim, an unbeliever, then it is like killing an animal.
That's not in the Torah.
I read it some. I'm not sure exactly,
That's
but
my that's in the yeah, that might be in the Talmud that you're thinking about,
Talmud.
but
Yeah,
the
yeah,
Torah
Talmud.
does not
Yeah,
say
sorry,
that.
sorry. Yeah,
You
sorry.
say what now?
I'm sorry. Yeah, I mixed it up. Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay. Thank you for your time. Thank you for your time.
Peace out,
no problem.
RPK.
Yeah. Peace out. Peace out.
RPK
God
seven
bless you
four.
all. Yo.
You too.